Ha 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 hi. Hi Kim, how are
Hello, Inrich.
Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Mix Live. How are you guys doing? How are you, Kim?
I am awesome. I am so glad we're back. We're doing this again.
I know, I am happy. Oh, just really quick before we actually start, we have a great announcement. We also playing on Clubhouse. Basically, it's just audio for our audio fan. So please make sure to tune in on Clubhouse as well, and you can also listen there. All right, Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is our, excuse me, wow. This is our second edition of the Mix Live. And yeah, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so that's why we're here. And yeah.
All right, that's pretty awesome. So yes, it's true that May it's the Mental Health Awareness Month. So we think that it would be great to have a show around mental awareness. So let's go ahead and Kim, just tell us what do we have all set up.
Yeah, well, you know, it's such an important time, and but it is important all the time, not just in May. But right now we're focusing on it. Experts say that 1 in 4 adults in the United States, 1 in 5 in Canada, although I think it's still pretty close, suffers from a diagnosable mental disorder in any given year. And a lot of people suffer from more than one at the same time. So something like, you get depression mixed with anxiety, and it's a very serious problem.
Yeah, it is very serious, and it's really sad to see that many people are not taking it seriously. So this is actually what we're planning on doing today. Hopefully, with what we're sharing, many more people will take it seriously. But before we dive in into that topic, again, we are going to have our very first global bistro, which is a time where we get to discover the world through its delicacies, right? So let's welcome our special guest on the stage so that they can share this moment with us. Super excited. So let's welcome Tanya and Marciano onto the stage. Hello, Tanya.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome onto the Mix Live.
Welcome to the Mix Live, yes. And welcome to the Global Bistro. We are so glad that you are here to join us today, where we get to know the world through the delicacies. And so we each have prepared a dish that is, I think, specific to a specific part of the world, maybe, that we're going to share with each other and with our audience. So let's get to it.
Yes. All right. So Tanya and Kim, you guys are where we call it the West Coast Canada, right?
West Coast Canada.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's morning there. So what we're going to do is, why don't you guys start? And I'm pretty sure you guys have some breakfast planned for us. So Tanya, do you want to go ahead and share your dish first?
Sure, absolutely. When we were asked this the other day, I'm like, culturally, I'm not sure. But here in Canada, we have a restaurant called White Spot. And this is where it all started for me. It's my heritage. It's why I was born. My parents they met there. And my dad, when they renovated White Spot, brought home a cooktop. And every Saturday morning, he would cook us waffles with fresh strawberries. And so, I was like racking my brain, like, what can I make? What can I make? And here is a disclaimer. I didn't make this. My daughter did. Thank God. I have some help in my house. So bless her. I said, I need it to arrive about 10 to 10. She's like, perfect. I can do that. So bless her. The thing that I'd like to say about this meal that's the most important is that we eat all our meals as a family around our kitchen table. And so that has been going on for almost 20 years now. And it's a tradition of our culture that I really love in our family. And I'm looking forward to tasting what this is going to taste like.
Yeah.
That's great. Can you show it again, please? Oh, I love waffles.
I know. It looks so delicious.
I actually want to remind our listener on Clubhouse that later on they can see the pictures of the dish on our Instagram page for our audio listener, people who are not watching live. So this is pretty cool. Thank you so much, Tanya, for sharing.
Thank you.
Where were your parents from again? Sorry.
My parents are Canadian,
Okay.
but originally, Scottish, Irish, Eastern European.
Wow.
Nice.
Kim, you are
All right,
next.
so moving on, we are on the west coast of Canada, but because my roots are on the east side of the world, I'm taking you to Japan. And in Japan, breakfast, like every meal, goes around a bowl of rice. Yes, they eat rice, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is not a myth, it's true. So breakfast would be a bowl of rice, and this is where we get into the delicacy, because one of the most common, popular-ish.
Can you move your rice a bit so we can see it as you're talking?
As long as it doesn't fall on my lap. Okay. So we have our bowl of rice. It's not moving. It's not going to go anywhere. Now, this is the delicacy. This is called natto. And it is sticky, slimy, fermented soybeans. And it is extremely healthy, very, very good for you. And what you do is you take your sticky beans and you put them on top of your rice, like this.
Wow.
And then you might take some green onions and just pop those on top, like that. And that is your dish. It's called natto rice, or in Japanese, natto gohan. And that's going to be a very, very common part of breakfast, whether you are in the countryside or staying at a first-class traditional Japanese hotel. This is going to show up on your breakfast table.
Wow.
Very cool.
That's pretty cool. Is that beans you said?
It is soybeans, and they are fermented, which is what gives them this sticky, slimy. They really, really are sticky, like these threads. They go on forever. So it's
So
always
that's
a big
not
challenge.
cheese.
It's not cheese.
Okay.
And basically, most people who are not Japanese take one look and smell, and they run. Because it looks horrible. It smells worse. I'm used to it now, but it's probably the closest comparison is either dirty feet or a very, very pungent cheese.
You're not selling it to us.
You're not.
And even in Japan, it's a love-hate. People either love it or they hate it. There is no in between. I hated it. It was, in my opinion, it was not food. I didn't consider it food. My ex-husband, when we were not exes, used to try and hide it in food because he was convinced, it was one of those, you've just never had it prepared the right way. So he used to hide it in stuff. And I would always know because he'd be watching me. And I'd be like, you put natto in this, didn't you? And yeah. But when I was pregnant with my first child, he made the decision. He said, you know what? I don't care how much you dislike this. You're going to consider it medicine because it is that good for you. And you're going to eat it. And he made me eat it every day. And about 3 or 4 months into my pregnancy, I found that pretty soon I was like, honey, we're out of natto. You got to get me some more. And now I love it.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, I don't know if I want to try. I'm not like, I don't know.
Natto is a no from me.
I have a very small person right next to me who is eyeing this and waiting for me to pass it on to her.
Can we see her have a bite? Can we see her have a bite? Go ahead, Anna. Go ahead. Let's see.
Good. Have a bite. Have a bite. With the natto, honey.
She's like, do I have to?
I put the green onion. She doesn't like the green onions. She likes the natto. She doesn't like the green onions.
Yum.
Yummy?
You got to do this spirally thing to get rid of the strings because the strings are
Thank you so much, Anna.
That is amazing.
She was lurking over here watching me.
Christopher, why don't you go next?
Okay, so my family is from Cape Verde Islands, West Africa, and one of our biggest dishes ever that I absolutely am addicted to. It's called Kachoopa. We also can eat it for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So, full disclosure, it takes hours to create this dish. So I brought the ingredients and then I have a good story behind it if you guys are ready for that.
We
Cool?
are.
Okay, so in this dish, um, it started, and I was always told this story as a child. I don't know how much of it's true, but it started off with one person in Africa making a soup with just broth. And of course, in our country, you know, especially back then, it was very poor and we didn't have many resources. So she was making a broth and then they smelled the aroma around this broth. And one person went to the home and said, "Hey, I don't have much to give. I have lima beans. If I give you my lima beans, can you add it to your broth? And together we could eat it." And the person said, "Of course, I'll add it to the broth and then we could have that together." And the next person came to the home and said, "Hey, I don't have much, but I have harmony, which is like a corn. Can you add that to your broth?" And this continued until one by one, the entire uh,
Village.
village, we'll call it a village. The entire village made it to this home and just was giving different items. And they had this huge stew, this gumbo, this soup that they all shared together. So it showed that by yourself, you're okay, but with many people, you could have an amazing feast. So Kachoopa is absolutely amazing. What we traditionally do, I love it fresh right then and there. But my sister prefers it the next morning. You fry it and add an egg on top. She's obsessed. We call it Kachoopa hafugad. But you can have it anywhere. So that is my delicacy from the Cape Verde Islands to you all.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I was like, I was waiting for the plate.
Give me like 10 hours and I'll I have pictures though. I have pictures. We made it
Please
a few weeks ago.
do like, I think you can share it on Instagram and maybe tag us and tag
Definitely.
so that our audience can see that. That would be awesome. So on to me. All right. So it's very funny and this is weird. Like it seems like three of us have beans on their plates, which is weird.
I
It wasn't
noticed that.
planned.
Beans for
It
breakfast.
wasn't planned, but let me grab my dish, right? So I am originally from Cameroon in Central Africa. So we eat beans. I hope you guys see. And then you can make a roasted chicken with that and a grilled plantain. So basically that's like an entire plantain that was just grilled. And I made it myself. Can you guys see it? I
Kudos
was
to
just
you.
trying to see, like,
I'm just going
that.
to throw in here that Inrich is an amazing cook, and I
Ah,
cannot
thank
wait
you.
to get over there
I
and
wish-
eat her food. 'cause
I
I'm
wish you
watching
guys
her
can
cook
see
all the
more.
time.
But basically, that's my dish.
Looks delicious.
And you know what? Since that we are there,
Mhm.
Jealous.
it's yummy.
Show
Yeah.
us the inside of the plantains, Inrich. I
Mm.
want to see the inside of the plantain.
The plantain is just grilled. I didn't put anything inside.
Yep.
So it's just grilled. So it's sweet. So it balanced very well with the salt and the meat. And it,
And Rich looks like she needs a minute.
actually, I might need a minute.
Tanya, you can pass me the waffles and we can just have a good just slide it over to the
Camera.
screen.
I might need a minute. I am so glad that we had this moment together. I appreciate you guys sharing and telling us a little bit about your world. It's always fun to discover new dishes and menu from wherever people are from. So this is pretty cool and we hope to keep doing it. So if anyone from the audience want to be part of this, they can definitely send us the video of their food and just telling us where they're from and why that dish is so important for them. So we're very, very happy to share that. So moving on, now that we are all satisfied with the food, it's time for who are you? Okay. So we love to know who our guests are. So Tanya, we already know that you're a comedian with a very unique style these days. So basically, you're well known in Vancouver and you do sit down stand up comedy on the street. And you are also like a street therapist, kind of. So we have a short video from the news that actually tell us what you do, and it really showcase it well. So we want to go ahead and showcase it to the audience, and you can tell us who you are after.
Twice a week, stand-up comedian Tanya Horn sits down and dispenses more than just jokes.
First, it was about trying to uplift people, giving away my comedy. And of course, my neighbors are like, oh, not that joke again. It turned into a whole lot more than comedy. I've been deemed the street therapist now. I love being able to see the smile in your eyes, Ray. And I love that you walk by here all the time.
She listens to passers-by as much as she talks to them on Nanaimo Street in Vancouver. And if the booth idea seems familiar to you, it should.
So she came to me back in March, Lucy from Peanuts. She showed up in a very vivid dream and said, build it and they will come. Become the sit-down stand-up comedian. I woke up and thought, well, that's crazy. And so about 5 minutes later, my boyfriend was building the stand.
But Tanya's booth is not just about brightening up other people's days. This helps her as well.
I suffer or have suffered from agoraphobia over the last 20 years where I couldn't leave my house for about 5 years. People really freaked me out and scared me. During COVID, I got sort of in this mode of, well, how do I interact with people without being able to touch them, look at them, see them? So this became a great outlet for me to do reach out in my neighborhood, to talk about mental health and end the stigma around mental health. It is my intention to come here and share laughter and tears.
And her openness has turned a lot of passerbys into friends.
She's picked me up on a few hard days as well.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's true.
What do you like? What do you think about this booth?
I think it's valuable to the community. I think Tanya's just out here offering herself in her purest, most loving form. I think it's beautiful.
I see the transformation that happens when we use humor as a tool and laughter as a tool for uplifting people, bringing kindness and love and joy and compassion into the world. Oh no.
Minor setback.
Okay. We lost the end there. But
That was amazing, though. That was absolutely amazing. Kudos to you, seriously.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't planning on crying today, you guys. But as anyone can attest to in my family and in anyone who knows me, I cry for a living, or at least I should get paid for it. It happens often enough. Oh, man. Thank you for
No,
that.
it's just wonderful. I think like from that we can already tell you're a wonderful person. So I don't know. So what more can you tell us about yourself?
Well, here's a little disclaimer. I'd like to put this in there because if you're expecting really funny, you're going to be let down because I'm only moderately funny. So, so don't have really high expectations. Now, would you agree that the world kind of got weird about 15 months ago? Right? And so I thought I'd make it weirder by sitting on the side of the road and giving away comedy. But you know what? I did try and do door-to-door comedian. Unfortunately, no one would open their door. They were terrified. I ended up on some kind of watch list, and I thought, oh, okay, well, how am I going to get my comedy out to the world? And I knew people were going to be in crisis around mental health. So how can I use my lived experience and help others? So I was very thankful. Well, actually, I was weirded out at first when Lucy came to me in a dream. It was extremely vivid, and I remember waking up the next day and saying, well, that's just crazy. I should not tell anyone about that. And then my mother called me and I was like, oh, you're never going to believe this. She's like, it's perfect. So she commissioned the stand. It's a glorified lemonade stand for those who didn't catch that. And I remember the first time I rolled it out, I remember thinking, people are going to think I'm right crazy. But the pull to help others in crisis with mental health potential, with the pandemic shutting everything down and us becoming very isolated, was greater than my fear not to do it. And after, being locked in my house for almost 5 years, I thought I have a duty to use this muscle that I've grown over the years with my mental health capacity to help others. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not still freaked out, because going out into the world right now does it. My anxiety is very high when I do that. But it allowed me to have a bit of a safety net. It's my safety blanket, the comedy stand. And I've now met hundreds of people where we have really intimate and amazing, authentic connection conversations. And if I walked up to them on the street and said, "Hi, I'm a comedian. Do you want to talk?" they might call security. So it's been a great way to alleviate the pressure of how do I do outreach in a world that is shut down. And so I've been there 10 and a half months now. The city did attend recently and said, "Well, how long do you intend to be here?" I said, "Well, how long's COVID?" If you can tell me that, I'd certainly tell you how long I'm going to be here. I'm going to be there till they drag me away, and or I'm not needed anymore, and or the world somehow miraculously comes out of this what feels to me the impact from the mental health crisis that we're in right now. Because as was said before, 1 in 4 and 1 in 5, I think it's more like 3 in 4 and 4 in 5 people are experiencing some kind of level of mental health crises that they've never experienced before. And until you actually experience for yourself, you don't know the innards of that. So it's very scary, or can be potentially very scary, especially if you don't have the help and support that you need. And there's a ton of shame around mental health. So, while I unbury myself from all of that shame and hope that alleviating the pressure that people feel with mental health by using laughter as a tool, because laughing is important, right? Laughter is so important, and it's magical because it actually scientifically changes our chemistry in our body, right? So when we smile, our chemistry changes. When we laugh, whether we're doing it, when we're simulating it and or stimulating it, it is actually has a real effect in our body. So I'm all over that.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And to add to that, I've heard that the more you smile, the younger you last, right? Isn't it? Like, you don't age faster.
It is anti-aging for sure. Absolutely.
Why not smile? Like, and it's free.
It is. Doesn't cost anything.
That's my
Hello.
And it's free.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and I believe that people look their best when they smile. And that's weird coming from me, because I usually don't smile a lot. Right? So, and I think it's more, for me, it's more of like a cultural thing, or when I try to look like I'm very focused, like I'm trying to impress people, and then I go in the group and then I just like, right. So if you ever see me like that, I don't hate you. I love you. I am inside. It's just my
focus.
resting face. Hey, Christopher.
Okay, yeah, Christopher, we haven't forgotten about you. So we know that you're a singer, songwriter, and that you have this amazing capacity to help people and take the initiative. You've generously donated your time and talent for many of our fundraisers with the foundation, and you're also very dedicated to your students at your school. So please tell us more about who are you?
Well, thank you first and foremost for just having me here on your platform. So excited for you guys and for everyone who becomes part of the show. But again, Christopher Marciano, I have had my share of mental health battles in the past with many different things. But I was going back and forth about being a musician, to be completely honest. When you're an artist, you're over analyzing. I'm a Virgo, so I analyze everything to the core. I pick everything apart about myself, and I just found myself on social media comparing, you know, my numbers with everyone else. And I started questioning myself as a musician. I was like, you know, am I a good singer? What I'm doing right now important? Like, does it make sense for me to do this? I see Tanya. Like, we could relate on so many things. When you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, it's beyond me. It's so many people out there feel this way. And I had a great support system who, you know, took me out of that darkness. And I realized that I want to use these fears that I'm having to build strengths with other people. And I was like, no, I had to continue doing music. So all of my songs have been experiences that I've gone through, and I write all of my music. And I just wanted others to listen to my songs and know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and know that anyone could experience this, whether you're a 10-year-old boy or a 35-year-old woman. These are things that we will get through together. So I'm hoping that my platform and my music will bring that light to someone out there who's listening.
It's wonderful.
Great, wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And I knew that you two would be a great mix to have.
I know. I love her. I feel like I could just reach over and just hug her.
Okay, so since we're on that and we're talking about your music, which is amazing, I think we should all have a listen and watch. We've got a video
Let's
here
have a
of the
blast.
song "Up Down."
See, if you were my love, your eyes won't cry, 'cause I want to save you. No, I want to hurt you, but it just leaves you up, down, around a roller coaster. But I should know that I want to give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Yeah, I want to give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. One night make you feel right. I don't think that you realize I got you feeling like you know love. So let's keep it on the low, low, 'cause I wanna give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Yeah, I wanna give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Up, down, up, down, up, down. 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 I want you, you want me. I know that it's crazy, but trust and believe me, I'll make you my baby. Up, down, up, down, up, down. 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 I want you, you want me. I know that it's crazy. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Up, down, up, down, up, down. He don't deserve you, and you know I'm right, 'cause you could do better. And yes, I'm much better, 'cause I wanna give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. But you know that I wanna give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Yeah, one night make you feel right. I don't think that you realize I got you feeling like you know love. So let's keep it on the low, low, 'cause I wanna give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Ooh, I wanna give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Up, down, up, down, up, down. 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 I want you, you want me. I know that it's crazy, but trust and believe me, I'll make you my baby. Up, down, up, down, up, down. 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 Trust and believe me, I'll make you my baby. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Up, down, up, down, up, down. See, if you want my love, your eyes won't cry, 'cause I won't deceive you. No, I wanna hurt you, I I wanna give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love. Yeah, I wanna give you my love, my love, my love, my love, my love.
Ooh, I'm feeling like I need to dance, 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 dance. Like
Yes.
it's. I mean, those boys are so talented. I would love
Oh
to
my
have them on the
gosh.
show one day. They're amazing. The
They're absolutely amazing. It was filmed in Nigeria, and they reached out to me and wanted to do like a minute, like a TikTok video for my song. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you could do the whole video. So they were phenomenal. And the expandables, I would definitely love them on the show. They're just mind blowing. So kudos to them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. On the Uptown bit, I think we have two amazing ladies, Dr. Sanya and Sari and Miss Gigi Horn. It's their birthday, so we would love to wish them a happy birthday. And we wish them all the best and that their way being enlightened. So all the best to those two amazing ladies. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday.
Uh,
Great. Okay, so we're gonna move into our main, which is mental health and mental health awareness. And we have to give our disclaimer here. We are not medical professionals, although I think, Tanya, you're in training right now to be a counselor.
To become a therapist, yeah.
To become a therapist, yes. But at the moment, we are not professionals, and so we're not giving any clinical advice. We're just sharing our personal thoughts, our personal advice. If any of our viewers are in a serious situation, we urge you to seek help in the correct avenues. But we still hope that we help. So
Yes.
Christopher and Tanya, both of you are very strong mental health advocates. And we'd like to ask both of you, how did you get involved with mental health and what does it mean to you?
Tanya can go first. If
Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I became a manager at work, mental health, otherwise known as my full-time job. And it was about 20 years ago when I got that distinction of manager of my mental health and wellness, which some days feels more like mental hellness, unfortunately. And what I talked about that a little bit in that video about people scared me. I had zero trust with the world. I had been traumatized throughout my childhood, but it was when my children were traumatized that it really traumatized me. And I thought, well, I'm never going to smile again. I will never laugh again. What the heck is the point in all of this thing called life? I had zero drive. There were months and months and months when I could barely lift my head off a pillow. Yet I still had 3 kids that I had to take care of. So thankfully, I had the wherewithal to understand that legally I had a responsibility to feed them every day. And so a full fridge, a roof over our heads, and 3 meals a day meant that I was being a good parent at that point in time because it was all I could do. It was literally all I could do. And I knew in my heart that I needed to laugh every day because that muscle was atrophied and nearly non-existent. So I knew that I needed to laugh. I knew that I needed to learn something. And I knew that I needed to cry and release. So that was sort of, the only thing I could see was this very minimalistic life in front of me. And I thought, okay, so if I just get through and continue to breathe through all of these things. So I watched Ellen to laugh. I watched Oprah to cry. And I watched Dr. Phil before he became all Jerry Springer and stuff many, many years ago to learn something. And then I would go to bed at night and I'd be like, oh, God, you're such a loser. Like, what's wrong with you? Those are the 3 things you did today. How could you possibly be proud of that? And it was many years later in reflection that I understood that's all my capacity was at that time. It had shrunk so much because of the trauma that I only had capacity for this much. And as the years went by and I intentionally started to heal and went to self-development and started reading books and regained my smile, inspired by my children, right? So I would see them outside laughing and playing, and I'd be like, how? They've been so traumatized. Like, how can they laugh? I don't understand. But kids are resilient. And thankfully, they taught me some things about resilience and about the importance of rebuilding a life. Now, I have lots of trauma and abuse in my family lineage history, and a lot of alcoholism and drug addiction. And at that point in time, I was like, okay, so I'm really clear. I don't want my kids to suffer any further. So this isn't about me, it's about them. So really it was about being in service to others, which is interesting because I'm still doing that. And it seems to have helped along the way to rebuild the muscle of mental health strength. But, you know, generalized anxiety is crazy because I never know when it's coming and I never know when it's going to hit me. And it's not logical, right? So we try and apply a lens of logical to something that is irrational and illogical. And therefore, there's a disconnect there that happens. So, you know, for me, it has been rebuilding that one little grain of sand at a time and trying to build on hope, which eventually became faith, which eventually became solid in an infrastructure to rebuild what my life was going to be. Now, it's taken nearly 20 years for that to happen, and it was the pending pandemic and the lockdown that really catapulted me into, sadly, skyrocketed my anxiety again. But at that point in time, it was like, all right, so you've done all of these things to build yourself up. How can you be in service to others at this point in time when people are going to be isolated and disconnected? Because one of my greatest beliefs is that human beings are wired for connection. We are wired that way. So if we're going to be disconnected and there are going to be people that are going to be isolated and alone, that's a lonely place to be. And if they don't have any kind of support systems in place, or they don't have any experience with mental health prior to now, they're going to be in trouble. So how can I help? And that's when the comedy stand started. And again, I'll repeat, I've been out there 10 and a half months. And so all the way through the winter, thankfully winters here on the West Coast aren't that bad. But I remember one day the rain coming in sideways and the wind was up and I was soaking wet and my hair was sideways. And I was like, wow, why am I doing this? Right, in service to others. Because here's the truth is, even though I was wet and cold, I could come in after that 2 hours of being out there. I had a hot shower. I have a house over, a roof over my head and stuff. So it was moving into that place of gratitude of being able to be in service to others and having the outlet of a safety of my home, safety of, having food, and again, eating as a family around our dinner table and stuff. So those are all things that have really helped me establish a strong foundation for mental health wellness in my life. And it's fragile. Mental health is fragile. So I could be doing really well for a long time, and then all of a sudden something hits me and I take a hard left. And I'm like, wow, how can I be back in that place, this dark, kind of dingy, gross place, when I feel like I've done so much work, because it can be that instant and it can take me out of the game sometimes. So, I have this crazy self-esteem thing where I hate and loathe myself so much, like I'm really mean to myself. Yet I still think I'm better than all of you. So that's a joke, by the way. And so I try and remain optimistic, and I think to myself, well, what could go wrong? And my anxiety is like, well, I'm glad you asked. Here are all the reasons why, right? So this is real life stuff, and I make light of it because it helps me to get through it. And it's no laughing matter, but laughter has certainly been the tool that I've used as the medicine to heal myself and really, understand the absurdity of some of the things that go on, and the dichotomy and the polarization of the things and the thoughts that are abnormal and incessant and can take over and really take me out of the game. So I'm glad to have the comedy stand. I don't think I'm anything special. I just am a regular human being who had 3 kids, who suffered trauma at this point in time, just wants to give back to others and help others out of their dark holes, because I didn't have the help that I needed when I was there. And, people say, I'm here for you, just reach out, I'm here for you. And the problem is that at that point in time, the phone is very heavy and the numbers are all skewed. And I didn't know how to ask for help because I didn't actually know what help looked like. So thankfully, I've had the wherewithal to figure some of that stuff out, and I've had and built really great sustaining support in place. But other than that, it's a struggle. And I think that it's really important, vital, as a matter of fact, to have these conversations. So I feel extremely blessed to be here. The other day I was walking down the street and I'm like, wow, I'm happy. And my anxiety was like, well, I hope you enjoyed those 2 minutes. It's over for you. It's over. So, it's a balance of trying to figure out where to stand in all of that, and to allow some of the feelings to come up and feel them and acknowledge them, and understand that everybody walking down the street right now, in whatever country you're in, is having their challenges behind the scenes that we know nothing about.
Exactly.
Very true.
Nothing.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
So
And I'm just
honor
gonna
that
say
stuff
right here,
and love them, right? Like I do the Care Bear stare out my comedy stand all the time. And there are some people that scowl at me, and I'm like, wow, I'm giving away joy and you're scowling, and I don't understand why that exchange doesn't work. It's none of my business why it doesn't work, because I need to continue to give away what I have to give away without expectation of return.
Yeah.
And there are some that get it, right?
Like usually that's how someone will go and be like, preach, girl.
Yes.
That was
Preach that.
but I'm going to say right here, I'm going to add in, I'm going to say, Tanya, you are very special.
Yeah, we thank God. I personally thank God that you're able to, and I know there were great supports behind you, that you were able to come from that moment to who you are today, and moving from needing help from people to being the help to other people. That's amazing. And I think that we should just continue to praise God and thank him for all the strength and the abilities that he does, and how he's empowering all of us. Like I thank you for coming and sharing this with
And
us.
you're doing it. You're reaching so many people out there with your platform, and you're using that to help others. So kudos to you. That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So how about you, Christopher? Tell us about you.
So for me, I tend to stumble into things. My childhood was pretty rough, and I felt like I couldn't see what others saw in me. I was the first in my family to graduate and to get my bachelor's degree and go on to get my master's. And, everyone is just like, oh my God, you're doing it. You're, paving this path that's different from everyone else. And I just felt like, that I could do more. And these huge accomplishments that everyone is praising me for, I'm not seeing it as a good thing. I'm like, well, millions of people out there do this, and so many other. I'm just one person like that. I'm not. I wasn't allowing myself to be happy in the moment. I just was continuously thinking about the next thing, and then going on to be an artist, and with music, every move I made was a criticism to myself. And looking back, I'm like, why did I do that to myself? I won Best Male R&B in Orlando, and I couldn't enjoy it because I was thinking of like, what do I have to do next? And okay, this is great, but what else can I do? And then in my culture, they don't know mental health. They don't know therapists. They don't know talking to anyone and having those important conversations. So I got to a really low place that I said, I need help. And I went to therapy, which was huge. I didn't tell anybody because there's that stigma, that embarrassment of saying, oh, you need to go talk to someone. You're not strong enough to get through this. But I said, no, I feel like there's some worth in me, and I need to go figure out what's going on, that I'm having these thoughts about myself. So through therapy and through love and support from my family and my friends, who every song I released, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. When's the next song? And I'm like, I just released it today. They're like, oh my God, this is great. Where's the music video? I'm like, oh my gosh, that takes time and money. So they showed me my worth. They gave me my reason to push forward and continue going forth, like being a teacher. And I had these, 20 kids looking up at me, and I was a 3rd grade and 4th grade teacher. So they thought I was the coolest thing in the world. Like, I would come in with my hats and my shoes. I was very non-traditional. I would stand on desk, implement music in my classroom. I'm like, I was just a hot mess. But I mean, I was like, I guess I'm doing something right. I was the top 10% teacher in Florida. And my kid, thank you guys. That was like a huge moment for me. But my students like saw something in me, and I can't credit my success and my hump over mental health to just one person, because it took so many people who didn't deliberately come up to me and say, hey, are you okay? Or how can I help? But they just were there and showed me my worth.
They literally light on your word by being kind and just like
being themselves. Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned that there's also a stigma around mental health where people think that like you're that it will just show that you're sick, when like the huge misconception as well, where people think that the people who are suffering are the one who are in the hospital.
Exactly.
And people can be walking on the street and going to work and still being, until being sick or still being suffering from some kind of mental health issue.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we were talking about this before, but I feel like the most fragile people are the people who are not in hospitals, those people who are not, getting help on a daily basis. It's everyday people like you and I who, just like you said, are walking in the street that no one has the clue that they're going through anything. And I feel like those days of just walking on the street, and I'm, my friends say that I'm weird and I talk to everybody, and I'll walk and I'll say good morning. Or today I went to Dunkin' Donuts and I held the door open. I was like, good morning. And the lady was just like, oh my gosh, what is going on with him? I just want my bagel with cream cheese and that's it. But those days are not as huge today, and I wish we did more of that. And I love to hear like Tanya being out there with the people and just making people laugh, because we need more of that, because you don't know what everyone is going through every day.
I mean, I'm glad you mentioned your new song. I think just for the sake of time, we can have like a sneak peek, and maybe in like briefly 1 minute, you can tell us like about that new song and what it means to you. Because the title, it's kind of very intriguing, like Runaway. So I think we would love to hear a little bit about it. So Kim, can we share the song?
Yeah, we will. Let's listen to Runaway.
I was trembling, but my heart remained still. My heart remains still. Yeah, powder seas fell, but your air encouraged me. That's when the ocean deep, oh, yeah. Take me on. I don't wanna live without you. Don't wanna live without you. I don't wanna be afraid. Keep holding on, 'cause I can't see without you. And I don't wanna see without you. I just wanna be here only. Oh, I need you in my life. Need you in my life. Oh, I need you in my life. Need you in my life. Oh, don't you run away. That's what I say to get me through the deep, deep, deep. I need you to believe in me.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, it's
Please,
been
please.
quite some time since I watched that whole video, and I was just like smiling the entire time.
So there's a lot there. So
Yeah.
tell us about it.
So the Runaway is actually my first song that I've ever released. I wrote it, wrote the script, I directed it, everything from beginning to end. And I wanted to capture the many things that people have gone through and then my journey and put it in one. So there's 3 different stories in there about self-confidence with the dancer, um, religion, and sexuality. So, fun fact about that video, every single person in that video is a family member or a great friend of mine. The dancer is my cousin. My mom, the mom in the video is my mom. Let me, side note, she thought she was the ultimate movie star after this. She's like, did you see? When we had the premiere of the video, she's like, but did you see my part though? Did you see? Oh my goodness, it was perfect. And I will say, it only took her one
She was
one
amazing.
try.
She was good.
She was
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. It was a very emotional shoot because those experiences is what we all went through. I remember, this is my first time sharing this, but I was behind the kitchen when they filmed that scene with my mom because that was me and my mom. When I came out to her about my sexuality, it was not the easiest thing. And her emotions when she was, yelling to the boys, she was yelling my name, even though that wasn't me in front of her. So she afterwards came to me and said, Chris, like that was literally us. And look at where we are now. So I wanted to show in the beginning the battles that they went through. And then by the middle of the song, you see how they've overcome. My cousin doing that amazing performance and accomplishing her dance. And then the woman who didn't get a job opportunity because of her religion, you see the connection that she forms and not giving up on herself and saying, you know what, I am qualified for this job. Don't judge me based on what my turban that I'm wearing. And then the sexuality, the mom coming and just realizing this is my son. I love him. And you see how they're all connected in the end. So I wanted to display that in this song and in this video. And it was very hard to make and release, but it has been by far the song that I love to perform the most. And anytime I do a show, I could do like all my new songs. They're like, okay, but where's that horn? Where's Runaway? So thank you guys for just sharing that because literally that just put a smile on my face. It took me back. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It's thank you very much. One thing I love about the mixed life is just that we're able to have real conversation with like normal people like us, like and our stories help and touched many other people. So I just love this platform. So
Yes.
much guys for coming. It's true that we're running out of time, but one thing that we really wanted to talk about was how can we be of help to someone who is depressed, like even if you don't have any tools, like Tanya, what would you say, like how can anyone go and support someone who is depressed?
I think for me, it was just knowing that they were available. So staying on the fringe and knowing that they're available and understanding that realistically, it's when I'm ready to reach out that I will. And to continue to invite people, even when they don't show up 100 times, keep inviting and including them. Because I think quite often they go, well, they never come anyway, so I'm not going to invite them. The problem is that maybe one time they'll get the courage to come. And if you stop inviting them, then they'll feel like they've done something wrong. So don't exclude people, include them in your lives. Talk to them, reach out and understand that if they're not reaching back, it's not personal to you, right? Be available whenever you can. Let them know that, let people know that. And then check in, check in and ask the question. Hannah, the one that you saw eating the natto, is that what it's called?
Natto,
Kim?
yeah.
Natto.
Good memory.
Earlier, she came to the comedy stand with Kim on Thursday, and I said, well, what does kindness mean to you, Hannah? And she said, you say hi, and then you ask, how are you doing? And she's 7. So at 7 years old, she has an idea of what we need to do to create kindness between people is say, my heart cares about you. How are you really doing? Instead of the traditional, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. That automatic reaction of, how are you doing today? I'm fine, which we all know is a lie. You know, most of us aren't doing so fine. So be willing to hear the truth about those things and not take anything personally, because it's never intentionally made to make anyone feel wrong or bad. It just is sometimes overwhelming to be in the pit of despair and not know how to get out, and all kinds of people reaching their hands out and not knowing how to grab on. And so it's complicated. That's my answer. It's complicated. It's not just easy.
Facts.
Yeah, be kind. Just being generous. I know, I mean, it's true that we need to be kind and be generous. And I know that Christopher, you have released, I believe it's a commercial, right? And it's reason and like just being that reason for other people. I think that's how I see your brand. For me, like you just have to be that reason for other people and just support them, right? And just being kind and generous. So we can share that commercial.
Yeah.
So people get to know a little bit about that brand.
Yeah. I love this commercial. It's amazing.
Be the reason someone loves themselves a little more. The reason why they're inspired to take a leap of faith. Why they finally put themselves first. Whether we're miles apart or heart to heart. Never stop being the reason. You gave me your hand, you gave me your love, you gave me your strength, you gave me enough. You made me a man when times were rough. You gave me your strength so I wouldn't give up. You gave me hand to breathe. You gave me hand to breathe. Reason by Christopher Marciano.
That is just so cool.
I mean, we just have to be the reason why people are happy. We should be just that. I think this is plain and simple. It will help anyone walking on the street. Be the reason why someone smile. Be the just open the door, just smile. And as Tanya said earlier, someone might be going through something. Even when you open the door, they don't say thank you, or if they just walk by past you, which happen all the time. Especially with me in New York, it's almost as you're not there. It's almost as you're not opening that door. But at the same time, you can hold that person. You don't know what that person's going through at the time. It might not even be like they're not even thinking about it.
Exactly.
So the reason to share a smile and like just be there for them. That's why we love that commercial of yours, and we're hoping that people will buy that line of clothing for you.
Yeah, you've got a special promotion on this month as well, don't you?
Yeah, so well, it's just 10% of all of the annual sales are going to one of the top 5 mental health charities. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I just wanted to release it this month. But Inrich, you literally got it on the nail. It's just paying attention and being a reason for others, but also being your own reason. Like if you wear this shirt or if you wear a hat, remind yourself why you are the word I won't say live, but you are amazing. You are I want to curse right now. you just have to remind yourself that you are amazing, and you can be your own reason, or go out there and be someone else's reason as well.
Beautiful.
And like, I know we're running out of time, but just a little anecdote about what you're saying. I remember I was walking down the street. I met a very old man. I think I'll post the picture because he gave me authorization to take his picture on the street. I sent you that picture, Kim. He was dressed in purple, orange, with, I believe, a orange hat, and then he has his cane. It's like that was the color, and he was walking down the street like he owned the street.
Yes.
And then I asked, like, why? At first, for me, initially, I was like laughing at like the colors and everything. But he turned around and he told me, I am a king, so I am dressing like one.
Yes.
And I was like, whoa, yeah. So I think, yeah, you should know, like, it shouldn't be for other people, it's for you as well. And like, just believe in yourself and the things that you do. Thank you so much for that message as well, Christopher.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for sharing that message.
Okay, so, and as much as, you know, I would love to keep talking about this.
I just think it's so cool that we get together around the globe. Thank you, the Myx.
Yes.
You know, we're in at least 3 different countries at this point in time, personally, and I just think that's awesome. I love the new friends that I met here today. Thank you for being awesome and amazing. And Christopher, very talented. Thank you so much for sharing the stage with
We
me.
love you, Tanya.
Yeah. Okay, so now before we go, I want to do something a little bit different. I want everyone, you and everyone who's watching, I want you to take 1 minute to stop. I want you to stop thinking about whatever you're thinking about. Don't think about dinner tonight. Don't think about the laundry that didn't get done. Don't think about that project you're working on. Take 1 minute to put the world on pause and turn inwards. And I want you to look into yourself and focus on yourself. Take a few deep breaths. And I want you to ask yourself individually, am I okay? And really think about it. And you know that the answer might be yes, and the answer might be no. And that's okay. Because it's okay to be okay, and it's okay to not be okay. It's very important that we know ourselves and that we understand this, and we take the time to ask ourselves, am I okay? And now I want you to give yourself a big hug, because I can't give you one. And if you need to find someone to talk to, please find someone and reach out to talk to them, because you are not alone. I see you, and I care.
Thank you for that, Kim.
Thank you. We do care. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a great exercise. I think we should do that often in our daily activities. Just
Every
take a
day.
mental break. Yeah. Tanya, I would love to hear like a very quick act, something for the audience to laugh. I don't know if we can do that.
I'll leave you with this joke. So the other day, I killed my cactus. I know. It is so good to find out that you are less nurturing than a desert. So good. So good. So good. You can find me at Sit Down Stand Up Comedian on Instagram and Facebook. And I belong to a comedy troupe called Hilarapy, where we do therapeutic comedy for healing with humor. And the Hilarapy Comedy Drop is on Facebook, and we drop memes there all day to keep people laughing and smiling. So come and check it out.
Awesome.
Thank you. We'll continue the conversation on Clubhouse. So, Christopher, feel free to join us. We ping you in the room. And thank you so much for everyone that been listening. We appreciate you guys, our guests. You guys were amazing. And thank you so much to our audiences and everyone who was listening.
Yes, thank you so much to, I'm monitoring the chat. So Daryl Williams, Adeline Pina, thank you guys for commenting and watching. I love you as well. You guys are amazing. Anyone out there who needs someone to talk to, I am literally available. You can follow me on Instagram, Marciano Music, and just write me a message. I'm here to talk and be that reason for you in those days that you find it hard to be a reason for yourself. So thank you so much, Myx. Thank you, Tanya. I'm like reaching over to you. I appreciate you guys so much for having me and supporting me above all through everything. And I feel like we're family. We had breakfast together. We laughed. We cried. I appreciate
I'm
it.
returning to this after the show. Let's make sure like we finished. Come on.
Love you guys so much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.